Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to explore how we can work with the element group or panel within the Chrome Developer tool. From the Elements panel, you can inspect the DOM and the styles. So in this lecture, we're going to use our resource folder. So open up your folder and click on the index.html. Click on that. And the quick shortcut there are two ways you can access the Elements panel. You can either go F12 if you are on the window, and that will open it up, or you can right click anywhere on the current web page and go inspect, and that will also take you to the Elements panel. The Elements panel lets you see everything in one DOM tree. DOM means document object model, so it lets you see everything in one DOM tree. It also allows you to inspect and make on-the-fly editing of the DOM elements. If you wanted to inspect or check or identify the HTML snippet for some aspect of the current page, the element panel or group is the place to go. So the Elements panel lets you examine the current web page as it is rendered by the web browser. So this includes both the HTML, which is this bit here, and the CSS that is applied to the HTML. So you can see the CSS on the right here. So you can see all that from within the Elements panel. So for example, you can expand the HTML. If you wanted to see more, just click on these three dots here and that will expand it, so you can see the entire HTML for your current page as it is loaded. For example, if I wanted to make a change, this is a live site, and you can do that with any site at all. If, for example, I want to change this title here, I know the title here has got an H1 tag. I can just come here and change it to H2 and see what it will look like as an H2 tag. So the way I do that, so you right click and just click on edit as HTML. So it will now give me this. So I can just change that to say H2 and click on that and say H2. And you can see that I can see from changing that, I can see how the text will look as an H2. Whatever changes you make to the Elements tab or panel on the fly, it reflects on the current page. But as soon as you close the page, those changes are not saved. So one of the main purpose of this developer tool is to enable you to try things out on a live website and see how things will be. It doesn't actually save the changes. As soon as you exit the web page, the changes are discarded, but it gives you an idea of what things will look like if you made certain changes. So as you can see, I've made a change here. I've changed the tag from H1 to H2, and you can see the text is smaller, but it has also affected the positioning of the text. The reason being, I haven't got an H2 styling. The styling I applied was for the H1, so I would have had to come to the styling area and make modification to the style as well. So the DevTools just give you ways that you can experiment. If I exit out of this page now, the original settings will come back. Say for example, I wanted to change the background color. Okay, and I'll come here where it's got body. You see the way it's got background color? This is the current background color of the page. I can click on that and say just make any change. So let's make it blue. As you can see, I've changed the background color just from this panel. However, it will be discarded when the page is closed. So the advantages of using the elements panel is that you can make changes on the fly to a current rendered page, and just to try things out and see how things look. So you can use it for testing purposes, change different features, add features, and just to see what it will look like. And if you, for example, now that I've applied this color, I can see that I like the color. So what I can do is go back to the original CSS. If I click on my CSS, this takes me to the CSS. I can come here to my CSS and go to my CSS from the direct folder and make the changes there to make it permanent. So when you it allows you to try things out, and then you can implement them later. So you can try things out on the fly as the website is rendered. So the elements panel is quite useful. It allows you to see snippets of your HTML for the current rendered page, and allows you to make edits on the fly. So you can make modifications to both your HTML and also the corresponding CSS. So that's it for this lecture on using the elements panel or group within the Chrome Developer Tools. If I exit this page now and go back to it, you can see that all the changes we made would have been discarded. So it's only there so that you can experiment. It's kind of like a sandbox for you to experiment and see how things will look if you wanted to make changes. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to set up persistent with the DevTools Workspaces. When you make changes to the element panel, when you, for example, make changes to HTML elements or CSS, those changes do not persist. That means when you refresh the browser or close the browser, those changes are lost. The DevTools allows you through the workspaces to be able to persist those changes to stay within the DevTools. So even though you refresh the browser and come back later, those changes will still be there. So we're going to see how to implement that. Open up your index.html file inside your project folder. Just click to open, and once you've launched it, just access the developer tools. I'm on a window, so I'm going to press F12 on the keyboard, and that will take me to the Chrome developer tools. Before you can set up persistent in the workspace, you have to create a folder, a copy of the folder. So you go to the sources directory, and this will show you the current files that comprises of this rendered page you can see. So it tells you it has index.html, a script, and a style file. So within this section here, right click and click add folder to workspace. So you need to browse to where this folder or this directory is kept and pick up that directory from there. So mine is in my documents folder. If I scroll down, it's called word length. I'm going to click OK. Before you can add it on, you have to respond to this prompt here. The DevTools is saying that it's requesting access to this file, this directory. It's telling you make sure you don't expose any sensitive information. That is really important. If you're sure there's nothing sensitive, click allow, and that will drop the folder in here. Okay, so this is the folder in this workspace. This is what will capture any changes and keep the changes there even if we close the web browser. So this refers to just the rendered page, and this here is where we can save any changes we make on the fly and go back to it when we want. So this directory here contains the sites original source files that were used to populate the site on the local machine or server. Okay. However, if you do not want to change the original files, for example, via the workspace, you can make a copy of the folder and specify it as a workspace folder instead. So if you don't want to make changes, if you don't want to change the original files via the workspace, you can make a copy of the folder and specify that folder as the workspace folder instead. This is just a basic site, so I don't really care, so I'm going to use the original files. Next thing we need to do is stage the persisted changes. At the moment, we've mapped the local folder to the workspace, but the browser is still at this stage. If we make any changes, we'll still serve the changes to the network folder content. So to automatically stage the persistent changes in the browser, we have to map the local files in the folder to a URL. So the way we do that, you right click or control click on the source files on the left. Yep. Okay. So right click on any of these files. So right click on the index and click on map to file system resource, and that will give you this dialog box here. You need to select the local file in the persistent workspace. So I know I've got an index.html file in this directory, wordlet.index, which is this one here. So I'm going to select that. So it's mapped it to that. Once you're done, just reload the page in Chrome, or you can exit completely and reload it. Okay, and if you do F12, if you're on a window, go back again, you can see that you can see the changes now. This directory now, the directory is now on the workspace. Okay, so any changes we'll make now will be persistent, will be saved inside this workspace. So let's quickly make a change. I'm going to go into the elements panel, and I am going to change the background color. This comes with a color picker tool, which is this tool here. I'm going to change the background color to that one, and if I refresh, if I exit the page, go back in again, you can see the changes has persisted because we've set up persistent within the workspace. So that's how you set up persistent. In order to do that, you must have access to the original source files, the files that render the web page or the web application. You must have access before you can set up persistent. Just to let you know, there are some limitations with the way the persistence work. Only style changes in the element panel are persisted. That is, only changes you make to the CSS from the elements panel are persisted. Changes to the DOM are not persisted. So only CSS styles defined in an external CSS file can be saved. So changes to element style or to inline styles are not persisted. So this only works for external CSS. If you have inline styles, you can change them from the sources panel. It is strongly advised that you make a backup copy before you make any changes. For example, before you add your directory to the workspace, make a copy of that directory And also you can also make copies of the individual files within the source panel. So if you click on the sources panel and right click, okay, there's an option to make a copy. So always make copies before you change things, so that if there's anything wrong, you can revert to the original copy. Very important you make copies before you make changes. So you can also delete files from this menu as well. So that's it for this lecture on persistence. So I encourage you to experiment and just see how things work. But always, as a standard rule, always make a backup copy of your original directory or files before you make changes. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.